The Maelstrom Hunter by Crimson QB Sage, Chapter 7, Players and Pieces, Temple Ruins with Team Archfiend. The four shinobi Konoichi, in the case of Fu, leaped at once at the rabbi. Acting on instinct, the beast charged at the nearest target, which happened to be Naruto. He swung the massive butcher's knife downward, only for the beast to dodge the strike. Damn, this thing's fast, Naruto thought as the rabbi dodged another one of his blade swipes. As soon as the beast dodged the second swipe, Roshi jumped in and slashed his gun knives at the beast, managing to leave a few small cuts on the beast, but not enough to do any real damage to the beast. Roshi was only able to get a few strikes in before he was thrown back into a tree by the rabbi's tail, colliding with his body. To Naruto's surprise, Roshi stuck to the tree much like his tree walking exercise. In all his time here in Remnant, he had not seen anyone use abilities such as this. The only place he could think of that had people with this ability was the Elemental Nations. What the? Is he from the Elemental Nations as well? Naruto thought. Was Roshi from there? More importantly, if he was, what if Konoha finally found him? You can ask him later, but right now, focus on defeating the rabbi, the QB said to Naruto, shaking his head of his current thoughts. Naruto decided to focus on the rabbi, which, after flinging Roshi into the tree, was being confronted by Fu and Han. Han had his battle axe in his shotgun form and was firing shotgun shells at the rabbi, whilst Fu had both of her Tonfans in their submachine gun mode and was firing bullets after bullet at the rabbi. Unfortunately, the man-made lead bullets did little to harm the beast, as most of the bullets barely made a dent in its skin. Seeing as the rabbi's skin was impervious to their bullets, they stopped firing and jumped out of the way just in time as the beast charged charged once more. As the beast charged past Fu and Han, Han brought down his battle axe shotgun just in time to scratch the beast, leaving a long scar across its serpent-like body. Crying out in pain, the Raibi retreated into the forest, allowing the four shinobi to regroup to strategize. "You've got some explaining to do, Roshi," Naruto said. "I stuck to a tree. Big whoop," Roshi said nonchalantly. "That was chakra you used there, and the only place I've seen people use chakra is..." "We can discuss this later. Right now, we have to stop the Raibi," Fu interrupted. Han nodded his head in agreement. "Fu's right. We can talk about this later," Han stated. "Fine," Naruto finally conceded, getting more serious. "Alright, it's clear that the Raibi is impervious to regular bullets. It won't be easy to engage in close combat. That leaves few options. Anybody know any Fuinjutsu?" Han asked, Naruto getting a cartoonish light bulb float over his head. "Yeah, I know lots of Fuinjutsu," Naruto exclaimed cheerfully before getting serious. "If we can distract the Raibi for a few minutes, I can set up the Yajufuin no Jutsu to immobilize it and then seal it with Yashiro no Fuin." Finished with wording his plan, he looked up to see the three other shinobi looking at him like he had grown a second head. "What? Is it so surprising that I know Fuinjutsu?" "No, what's surprising is that you're able to come up with a decent plan," Fu said, causing Naruto to face fault. "Still, it might work," Han commented, Roshi nodding his head in agreement. "Alright, let's do this," Naruto said, the three other present nodding in agreement. With Team Ruby and Team Juniper. "Ruby, wait!" Yang exclaimed as she ran after her sister. Ruby charged at the oncoming Deathstalker, still screaming, and fired crescent rows to increase her speed. When the two met, the Grim swiped Ruby away with one of its massive claws, knocking back said girl. "Don't worry, totally fine," Ruby said as she got back up slowly, turning back to the monster. She shot 12.7 times 99mm NATO rounds from her crescent rose at the grim skull. As soon as she got its attention, she ran away from it, sheathing her scythe as the Deathstalker went after her. "Ruby!" Yang exclaimed once more, running forward, but before she could reach Ruby, the Nevermore from before caws above them, flapping its wings and releasing lines of sharpened feathers with points, one of which had caught onto Ruby's cape, preventing Yang from reaching her. "Ruby, get out of there!" "I'm trying," Ruby yelled back, struggling with her cloak. The Deathstalker approached her and raised its golden stinger above the frightened red-haired girl and headed down on her. "Ruby!" Yang yelled out, reaching out in vain. Ruby closed her eyes, awaiting her inevitable demise, not noticing the white blur race past Yang. "You are so childish," Ruby heard the voice of Weiss exclaim. Opening her eyes, Ruby looked up to see that the stinger of the Deathstalker was encased in ice. "Weiss?" Ruby asked in disbelief. "And dim-witted and hyperactive, and don't even get me started on your fighting style, and I suppose I can be a bit difficult. But if we're going to do this, we're going to have to do this together. So if you quit trying to show off, I'll be nicer. Weiss continued. I'm not trying to show off. I want you to know I can do this, Ruby retorted. You're fine, Weiss said, walking away. Breathing a sigh of relief, Ruby clasped her hands together, closed her eyes, and gratefully whispered, normal knees. As she got back up, she was rushed by the blonde blur that is her sister and pulled into a hug. So happy you're okay, Yang exclaimed before the two looked up at the Nevermore that was beginning to circle back. Guys, that thing's circling back. What are we gonna do? John exclaimed, noticing that the Nevermore was coming back at the group. Look, there's no sense in dilly-dallying. Our objective is right in front of us, Weiss pointed out, the group taking notice of the relics. She's right. Our mission is to grab an artifact and make it back to the cliffs. There's no point in fighting these things, Ruby added. What about the other four we were with before? Blake asked, worried for her friend Fu. I'm pretty sure they can handle that thing they were chasing, Ren said. For now, the best course of action is to retreat. Run and live. That's an idea I can get behind, John supported. With everyone in agreement, the two remaining duos that didn't grab a chess piece went to the temple ruins and grabbed one, all the while the Death Stalker continued to fight its bonds, cracking the ice a little in the process. Time we left, Ren exclaimed as the pairs all had a relic now. Right, let's go, Ruby said, moving everyone forward with the exception of Blake and Yang, the latter with a smile on her face as she watched her sister. What is it? Blake asked her partner. Nothing, Yang said, staring proudly at Ruby as she led their group onward, Blake smiling in realization. With Team Archfiend, the four shinobi leapt from tree branch to tree branch in pursuit of the Rabi, following the trail of vile chakra it left. The plan that Naruto concocted may not have been the best plan that the four could come up with, but it seemed like the best option at the moment. The four Jinchuriki followed the beast in utter silence until Naruto broke the silence that permeated the air. So, what part of the Elemental Nations are you guys from? Naruto asked hesitantly. Truth be told, he wasn't entirely certain they were even from the Elemental Nations, or if they knew of the hidden continent. The question lingered in the air as silence reigned once more. Iwagakure, Roshi answered after a few minutes with a soft tone that was barely a whisper, though the other three heard it perfectly clear. Iwagakure as well, Han said shortly after Roshi's statement. Takegakure, Fu replied after Han's response. Each of the responses surprised Naruto even more, seeing as nobody except the Biju knew about Remnant. What about you? Roshi asked Naruto, who was shaken out of his musings when questioned. Konohagakure, Naruto said. So how'd you guys get here in Remnant? Well, we'll tell you later once we defeat the Rabi, Fu said. Finding that answer acceptable for the time being, Naruto returned to focusing on the search for the Rabi. A few minutes later, they heard the cry of a Nevermore coming from back where the temple ruins were, causing the group to turn their heads slightly to where the sound came from. Continuing with their hunt, the group eventually came across a clearing. It was small, but it wasn't very large either. A few patches of grass stood out in the clearing, along with a few bushes that stood below trees that had low-lying branches. In the center of the clearing stood the Raibi. The beast seemed to be remaining still to the untrained eye, but the four shinobi could see clearly that the beast was sensing the area around it. Wait, how are we sure that the beast won't just escape again? Roshi asked. Good point. Kakebunshin no Jutsu, Naruto said, forming four shadow clones. You guys know what to do. Hi, boss, was the response of the four clones in unison before going off to what they were assigned to do. What are you doing? Han asked, curious as to why Naruto created four clones. Ensuring that the Raibi can't escape, Naruto said cryptically. Soon enough, the clones were at the locations they were assigned, all four forming a square formation in sync. All four of the clones did the hand signs hebi and clasped their hands. Ninpo, Shishian-jin. The four clones cried out as a square barrier made from the purple flames rose up, each clone containing enough chakra to maintain the barrier for 45 minutes. The four shinobi saw the purple flames rise up in the air at the same time the clone performed the jutsu. What the hell is that? Fu asked, seeing as the flames had appeared out of nowhere. So that's what you had planned, Roshi said. Ninpo Shinshinjin. Clever. How would you know that jutsu? Fu asked, unsure of Naruto's skill in Fujutsu. I'm in Uzumaki, Naruto said, puffing out his chest in pride. Your argument is invalid. That wasn't the real reason as to how he knew that jutsu, but he had his pride. But Uzumaki clan members are supposed to have red hair, not blonde hair, Fu argued. Yeah, well, I'm just that awesome, Naruto continued. Anyways, let's do this. Hi, was the chorus of replies that he got. As soon as they finished speaking, they all did their parts. Fu, Han, and Roshi engaged the Rabbi, keeping the manifestation of Al Chakra busy, while Naruto prepared the necessary seals for the Yaiju Fuin no Jutsu. Fu, Han, and Roshi all attacked from different sides, firing bullets and slashing their blades at the beast, distracting the beast as its targets were its current attacker, which changed each time one of the three Jinchuriki attacked. Soon enough, Naruto had finished inscribing the seals into the ground. "Alright, draw the Raibi over here," Naruto yelled out, and after a few minutes of dodging a pissed-off Raibi, the trio was able to draw out the beast to the area Naruto specified. Kneeling on the floor, Naruto placed his hands on the ground. The chain-like seals rose up in the form of glowing chains that bound against the Raibi's serpent-like body, immobilizing the beast using the special chakra that made the Uzumaki clan a powerful force to deal with. Clasping his hands together, Naruto began to prepare his next jutsu, Hatsu, Jin, Kai, Min, Shin, Gan, Ripio, Shosen, Mika, Dan, Raku, Sho, Fu, Sai, Dan, Geek, Raju, Bagi. And Naruto went through the proper hand seals. "Yashiro no Fuin," Naruto yelled out, placing one of his hands on the ground as the seal ray drew itself. Fu, Han, and Roshi jumped back out of the way as the seals on the ground lit up, engulfing the Rabbi's body. Now came the part that Haranjiji had warned him about. Flashback start. Back in the Naruto cave warehouse, we find a 14-year-old Naruto with the reinforced Kagebunshin of Uzumaki Haran, learning more about Fuinjutsu. Because of his Uzumaki heritage and his parentage, Naruto took to Fuinjutsu like a fish to water. With the first 2 weeks after starting his Fuinjutsu training, Naruto had mastered calligraphy. It took less than 2 hours to create a reverse summonable storage scroll after learning the necessary seals, and now here he was learning a specified type of Fuinjutsu. "Nijiji, how'd you get this Fuinjutsu if it's exclusive to this land of demons?" Naruto asked in curiosity. "The Uzumaki clan have thrived for centuries. Our ancestors were there to help seal the demon that this jutsu was designed for, so it would be a likely cause that the clan would have an archive of how to perform said jutsu." "So, why exactly do I need to know this one then?" Naruto bluntly asked. "Well, you never know if you might need it someday or not," Haran said with a small chuckle at Naruto's bluntness. After that, Haran exclaimed the mechanics that the seal used and what hand signs to use. Near the end of his explanation, the author used the plot coincidence no jutsu. After sealing the demon's physical body, it will become a battle of wills between the demon and the caster. Should the caster's will fail to overpower that of the demon's will, then the will of the caster shall be sealed away with the demon's physical manifestation, leaving the demon's will to be in control of the caster's body. "Well, that sucks, but I probably won't need to use this jutsu ever," Naruto exclaimed cheerfully. Despite his statement, Haranjiji insisted that he learn it either way. Flashback end. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto suddenly found himself in his mindscape in the room where the Kyuubi's cage was held. Looming in front of him was a small leech. This made no sense at all. The Rabbi was supposed to be this giant leech-like creature that fed off of darkness. Just as he thought about this, he noticed the leech had grown a bit from its original size and kept growing and growing and growing until it finally was bloated and nearly half the size of the Kyuubi. "Kit, draw the leech near the seal gate," the Kyuubi said. "Why should I?" Naruto asked, very wary of trusting the Biju. "Because I feel like eating, and I'm in the mood for some marinated leech." Figuring out what the Kyuubi was implying, Naruto decided to go along with its plan. Charging at the Raibi, Naruto summoned up 11 Kagebunshins, making 6 pair to form Rasengan. As the Rasengans were formed in 6 of the Naruto's hands, they each rapidly expanded past the point where they were larger than his body. And before the Rabbi could react, it had been hit by the clone. "Odama Rasengan," was the cry of the clones, each pushing the beats closer and closer to the Kyuubi's cage. After the 6th Odama Rasengan, the Rabi hit its back against the cage bars, and that's when the beast of Al Chakra froze. It froze at hearing the evil laughter that came from behind the bars of the cage. Before it could run away, a massive orange claw slammed it to the ground, effectively cutting off its chance of escape. Then the Rabi was dragged into the shadows that loomed behind the cage, followed by a few cries from the beast, then silence, followed by the sound of a belch from the Kyuubi. "Tasty," the Kyuubi said, the outline of its menacing eyes and mouth being the only thing visible. That was easier than expected, Naruto said, a bit disappointed as he was expecting more of a challenge. Oh well, anyway, be seeing you around, Furball. And with that, Naruto disappeared from his mindscape, leaving the QB to frown in seriousness. Strange how the Raibi showed up out of nowhere, and its chakra was fouler than I remembered it to be. The QB thought after consuming the Raibi, laying back down in its cage. The QB decided to think on this on a later time. With Team Archfiend, Naruto jolted up from his previously slumped position. Looking around, he saw that the Raibi was gone, the seal was on the ground, and that his three teammates were standing around him. So, how'd it go? Roshi asked, a small smirk on his face, causing Naruto to match it with one of his own. Oh, it was fine. A bit anticlimactic, though, Naruto said as he got up off the ground. Looking around once more, his grin widened. Yatta, we did it! Naruto exclaimed in a childlike manner, pumping his fist up in the air. After that little exclamation, the four Jinchuriki made their way back to the cliffside, walking in a casual, nonchalant manner. The path they took led them past the temple ruins, along the way seeing the aftermath of a battle, which included a decapitated head of a Nevermore and a dead Deathstalker with its stinger lodged in its head, and the 8 other initiates that were present before the group split up. Ruby was at the top of the cliff, her cape and petals flowing into the wind, looking down to her friends as they peered up. Well, that was a thing, Yang said. Ruby continued to smile as she heard the faint sound of an audience clapping. Turning to the source of the clapping sound, she saw Naruto, Fu, Han, and Roshi all clapping. When she noticed them, they each pulled out a sign with a number on it. In Roshi's hand was an 8, in Han's was a 7.5, in Fu's was a 7, and in Naruto's was a solid 9. Beacon Auditorium, Russell Thrush, Cardin Winchester, Dove Bronzewing, Skylark. Osmond listed off as the picture of each person appeared on a screen. Currently, all of the initiates that passed the initiation were here to be assigned their teams. The 4 of you retrieved the bishop pieces. From this day forward, you will work together as Team Cardinal, led by Cardin Winchester. The audience gave one more wave of ovation, while the 4 students walked off the stage as 4 other students walked onto the stage, each taking their places in front of the headmaster as their faces filled the screen. John Ark, Lai Ren, Pira Nikos, Nora Valkyrie, the 4 of you retrieved the rook pieces. From this day forward, you will work together as Team Juniper. Amidst the clapping, Nora laughed and gave Ren a hug. Led by John Ark. Led by, John said in disbelief. Congratulations, young man, Osmond said. A grinning Pira offered a friendly shoulder bump to John, but her fine leader was knocked over and fell to his butt in front of the now laughing audience. Blake Belladonna, Ruby Rose, Wai Shning, Yang Xiaolong. Osmond started motioning over to the 4 as they stood before him. The 4 of you retrieved the knight pieces. From this day forward, you will work together as Team Ruby, led by Ruby Rose. This statement caused Weiss to look to her right, surprised, where Ruby is obviously in shock as Yang goes over to hug her sister. I'm so proud of you, Yang exclaimed as she hugged her sister after the 4 stepped off stage, or dragged off in shock in Ruby's case. 4 more stepped up onto the stage. And finally, Han Irukama, Roshi Yamazaru Ruroko, Naruto Uzumaki, Fu Toruko. The 4 of you retrieved the king pieces. From this day forward, you will work together as Team Archfiend, led by Naruto Uzumaki. Said blonde knucklehead was sporting a large grin on his face as he did a little dance mentally amidst the last round of cheers. Osmond looked around in interest. It looks like things are shaping up to be an interesting year, Osmond said at Team Archfiend dormitory. After the party that was held for the new teams, everyone was assigned dormitories to sleep in. Team Archfiend's dorm was near Team Ruby's and Team Juniper's as well, so they all knew each other well enough to be on friendly basis. So here we find the squad of Jinchuriki preparing to sleep. Han was wearing a white t-shirt along with brown pajamas. Roshi was wearing dark red pajamas along with a gray t-shirt that had a cartoon monkey on the front. Fu was wearing a black tank top and teal pajamas, and Naruto was wearing a white shirt with a 9-tailed fox on the back in blue along with dark orange sweatpants. The 4 were prepared to sleep, but one question was still on Naruto's mind. You guys still haven't answered my question, Naruto blurted out, causing the 3 others to look at him. How exactly did you guys get to Remnant? Short story start. Spirits of the Swirl Part 1, The Mask. Our hero, despite being as knowledgeable as Hiruzen Sarutobi was in his prime present day, was not always this knowledgeable. Here is one of those stories of how he learned some awesome jutsu. Hey, Haran Gigi, Naruto started a strange mask in his hands. What the heck is this? Ah, yes, there's one of the Uzu masks. Those are masks granted to us by Shinigami-sama to our ancestors. Originally, we had 50 of those masks, but nearly half of them were destroyed out of fear, lost to the earth, or stored away in one of our shrines. Haran explained, saddened a bit at what happened to the clan. But what do they do? Naruto asked, thoroughly examining the mask, its appearance reminding him of a grinning demon with horns at the top of its head. That is knowledge lost to our ancestors. Even I have yet to figure out the purpose of those masks, Haran said. Naruto held the mask to his face as if to put it on. Well, there's only one way to find out, Naruto exclaimed as he began to put the mask on his face. Naruto, wait! Haran exclaimed, only for his cries to fall to deaf ears as his grandson put on the mysterious mask of the Death Angel. After he put the mask on, he froze. Not a single movement which caused to Haran to sweat in nervousness. After a minute, Naruto moved again. Nay, Haran Gigi, is something supposed to happen? Naruto said, taking off the mask and re-examining the mask, causing Haran to sweat drop. After Haran gave Naruto his lesson, he did his daily routine of resealing himself as to preserve chakra, leaving Naruto to go about his daily activities. That is, until he spotted a strange girl with red hair. As said earlier, she had long red hair, also wearing a white band, dark eyes, a purple sleeveless kimono, blouse with yellow trimmings held close by a traditional obi, tied together with a long streaming bow, mesh armor underneath, and a short white shirt. She seemed to be wearing no footwear, leaving her bare feet. Said girl was staring directly at him with a look of indifference, causing Naruto to raise his eyebrow. Why are you staring at me like that? Naruto asked, which shocked the red-haired girl. You can see me? The girl asked hesitantly. Well, yeah. Who are you anyways? Naruto asked. I'm Uzumaki Honoka, the now identified Honoka said. Short story end. End of chapter 7.